Welcome to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. I'm David Fung, an executive leadership coach and seasoned people leader. This podcast is all about helping leaders grow, navigate challenges, and build high-performing teams with real stories, insights, and strategies you can apply today. Let's dive in. And welcome back to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. This is David, and today I'm here with the most organized man in America, Andrew Mellen. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. It's great to be here with you.
I have never done an introduction like that ever. So Andrew, you are considered the most interesting. There you go. Jeez, ring the bell. So you're the most interesting man so far I've talked to, but most organized. And you have a few books. I just did a quick search on you on Google. 3 of your books pop up. Calling BS on Busy, The Most Organized Man in America, Guide to Moving.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Unstuff Your Life, Kick the Clutter Habit. Yeah. So clearly there's a theme here in everything you're doing. But how about you talk to folks out there listening? How are you the most organized man in America?
Well, let's be clear. I mean, the media calls me that, so I run with it. I'm organized. This is work that I've been doing for almost 30 years now, and it's my second career, and I'm focused on helping people to remove obstacles. So, I mean, when we think about it from a coaching perspective, all of the work that I do is about meeting people where they are and supporting them in making the choices that are aligned with their values that get crap out of the way. So whether that's emotional crap, it's clutter, physical clutter, spiritual, mental, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, we're homing in on it and trying to figure out what's keeping it in place and what we can do to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. So they have more time to focus on whatever they want to do. And I don't really, maybe I should care, but I don't really care what you spend your time doing. I just want you to be able to spend it in the way that you want to spend it. So I don't have a big agenda around curing cancer is more important than showing up on time for your kid's soccer game. I think depending on what's important to you in the moment, could be the most important thing is just finally making it on time to the meet and not showing up 15 minutes late with a story of, like, oh, there was one more email or I ran into traffic or couldn't find my keys, all of which is, BS.
Yeah.
If it was important to you, you'd be there on time, right?
It is. And here's the thing, like what I find this conversation so interesting is that like the last podcast that I had was with a gentleman named Scott Anderson, who talks about burnout. And one of the things we talked about was that many leaders out there they know what is important to them. They know what they want to do. But when it comes to like a Friday like today, and they look at what they've accomplished and what they feel they accomplished, they feel they've done nothing that is important to them or that they value. And so that really leads me to my first question for you, Andrew. Like you've helped thousands of people get organized, whether it's physically get organized in their house, but also mentally leaders like the BS of busyness. So in your opinion, what's like one major mind shift leaders need to have in order to stop being overwhelmed and disorganized?
Well, I think it does start with knowing what's important to you and then building your day around those things that are high value to you and to your business, right? I mean, when we're talking to entrepreneurs, people who are running SMEs rather than Fortune 50 companies where there's tons of people. But if we're talking to people who are running SMEs, it's you and maybe a small team, you and an assistant, maybe you and a bunch of part-time VAs. The configuration is it only matters in that much more falls back on you as CEO / visionary, hopefully not the sole implementer of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if every morning, ideally, or the night before, I don't do a lot of planning the night before because if I start my brain thinking, so I prefer to get up earlier in the morning and start that work. I'm sharp and fresh. There's less noise in my head. And it just becomes easier to prioritize and structure the day for me first thing in the morning rather than the night before. It messes with my sleep. If the listener can do that work at night and then turn it off and go to bed or do whatever they need to do, more power to you. I'm not wired that way. And I've tried. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. So you start the day and you look at what's important to you. You look at what has to be done, what has to be done today, really has to be done today versus what you'd like to do or what you would like to do to avoid doing what you ought to do or should do. And not should with a bunch of judgment or shame attached to it, but what's required. I say often, right? Winners do what they have to do. Everyone else does what they want to do.
Hmm.
And whatever winning looks like for you. So if you want to excel, and basically we're managing 24 hours. I mean, we have lots of plans and projections of what we want to accomplish over the next week, month, quarter, year. And still, the only thing you have control over is the 24 hours that's right in front of you and literally the moment that you're in. So if you're that tuned into my choices right in this moment are going to influence the rest of the day and as a result the rest of the week, month, quarter, etc. So you just have to focus on what is going to happen today.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're hoping tomorrow happens, but this moment is the only time when we can actually affect change and where
Yeah.
it's the only moment where we have agency.
Yeah. So focus on today. Now, I think at the heart of it, like you've worked with a lot of like entrepreneurs and leaders and executives. And I'm curious when you get to the heart of it, like their belief systems, their drivers, like why do so many successful people, why do they struggle with things like clutter, distraction, a lack of time management, in your opinion?
Why do they struggle with these things? In some ways, there's as many different reasons as there are humans. And the patterns are if you're neurodivergent and you have trouble focusing,
Hmm.
that's a particular flavor of distraction and struggle to stay focused. And for those people, I typically coach them into working in smaller blocks of time. So instead of looking at a neurotypical person who can possibly stay focused for, let's say, 60 minutes at a time uninterrupted, if your sweet spot is 4 minutes, then you can get a ton done in 4 minutes uninterrupted if you block out 4 minutes and you only do something. So wherever that fracture point is for you, where you would tend to disappear or go off on a tangent, let's stop 12 seconds before then. And that's simple metrics. We just time that. And again, we're humans, we're not robots. So it's not like there's a strict algorithm that's running our behavior. And at the same time, if we recognize pretty consistently, I got a good 4 minutes before something's going to interrupt my train of thought or I'm going to be distracted. Then let's settle on 4 minutes. If some days you have seven, good for you. Let's still keep it at four because we know that that'll be an optimum number for you. So when we talk about folks that have any sort of neurodivergency, ADHD, OCD, focus challenges,
Hmm.
let's turn what might be considered a deficit or a disability into your superpower. If you are neurotypical, what I would say is let's focus on how you're prioritizing and are you in that story that says, I need a large block of uninterrupted time to take on these big major initiatives? And until then, I'm just going to knock off all this little stuff, get it off my desk, get it off my mind. The reality is that while that feels good in the moment, it's actually in the biggest picture, it is counterproductive because you're never going to get a large unstructured block of time in the way that you imagine you need it, right? Like whether it's cleaning the garage and you need all day Saturday to clean the garage, or you're coming up with a new program or a new project and you need a lot of brain time to be able to really think about it. Yes. And if that were a series of 8 1-hour blocks of time versus 1 8-hour block of time, first of all, the brain science tells us that after about 2 to 3 hours, diminishing returns. So even though you think like, oh, I'm all in and I'm going to take these 8 hours and dig in, brain science tells us after 2 to 3 hours, diminishing returns. So you'd be
Yeah.
better off taking a break, getting a snack, walking the dog, checking your email, going to the bathroom, walk around the block, come back, reboot, and climb back in. You'll get a lot more done if you structure your time that way.
It's really interesting what you mentioned there. Like just say 8 blocks of 1 hour or whatever it was, right? I recently had a conversation with an individual at work, and they're like, there's so much new stuff to learn about AI. I I try to block off this 1 hour every Friday, yet it always gets booked over with something. And I shared with them, I go, hey, you know what I did this morning? Or I like to do a lot of mornings. I like to go have my coffee, and that's my uninterrupted time, right? And during that time, I will consume a 2 minute video about whatever, whatever the topic is. What's new with Gemini, what's new with Anthropic, and 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 it's just 2 minutes, 2 minutes at a time. And then I'll have a cup of coffee at lunchtime or whatnot. That'll be another 2 minutes. In the afternoon, 2 p.m., I'll look at another video. That's like 6 minutes of high value learning, honestly, right? Because the content on social media is like within a 30-second to 1 minute period, it is highly valuable. And so I probably did more in those three instances than this person did in 1 hour in a week, right? And so it sounds like that's part of your approach, is like adapting to the individual. Like you say neurodivergent, but it sounds like you need to have, like, the individual needs to have a certain awareness of themselves. What is my attention span? No, really. Is it 4 minutes? Is it 3 minutes? Oh, but this type of stuff I love, I could do it for 30 hours, right? So how do you help them? I guess, are you assuming they already have that awareness of their attention span, or is that something you help them with understanding?
Yeah, I mean, I try to assume as little as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I call it a noble experiment. I invite people when we're starting to work together to time themselves. Either you can use an app or you can use the stopwatch on your mobile phone, but to time yourself for all of the things that you do more than once. One-off things, there's a curiosity factor of like, oh, how long does it take me to do this thing that I'll never do again? It's curious to know, but it doesn't really translate. But for all of the things that repeat, how long does it take you to get dressed in the morning? How long does it take you to bathe? How long does it take you to make a cup of coffee? How long does it
Hmm.
take you to make breakfast? If you're driving to work, how long does it actually take you to commute? How long does it take you to do a load of laundry? How long does it take you to do the groceries? How long does it take you to drop something off, to return something at the postal shop, to send something back to Amazon? How long does it actually take you? We tend to round those things off into like, oh, that takes me 15 minutes. Oh, that'll take me half an hour. Well, does it take you half an hour? Does it take you 27 minutes? Does it take you 19 minutes on average? What's the mean? Because then we can work with that math. If all of time management is simple math, and if anybody's got a story of like, oh, I'm not good at math, I'm really creative, it's dime store math that we're talking about. It's
Yeah.
24 hours in a day. It's 60 minutes in an hour. It's 168 hours in a week. So at most, it's three digits. If you've graduated from the third grade, you can do the level of math
You can
that we're
count.
talking
You can
about
count.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've got a story, we just need to poke a hole in it. There is a statistic that I love that I use all the time, which is that the average adult tells 200 lies a day. And as we know, probably 2/3 of them are things that we just tell ourselves. They never come out of our mouths. So it's once we can start to recognize those and poke holes in those, that's that story of like, oh, I'm not good at math. You're fine at math. You're not going to solve, quarks, but that's not your job anyway. You don't have to worry about quantum physics. You just need to be able to figure out how long does it take you to get from point A to point B consistently.
So you have a framework for helping people get organized. Is that right?
Sure. Well, I mean, it all starts with the organizational triangle, right? I mean,
Hmm.
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me more, and share with the audience here more, like, what is that framework, and how could someone apply it right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, it feels magical to me that I discovered this, right? Like, or I made it up, whatever. The organizational triangle, three legs, one home for everything, like with like, something in, something out. One home for everything, like with like, that's what we use to get organized. Something in, something out is how we stay organized. So when we think about getting organized, which isn't the same as decluttering is about removing things. Organization is assigning everything a home and putting all of its siblings together. So if all of your tools are in the toolbox, you only have to go one place to find a screwdriver or a hammer. They're all together, and they're only in one place. So you can't spend a lot of time or waste a lot of time looking for anything because everything's in one home and all of its siblings are together. So instead of we think we're hacking time by putting all the tools in the toolbox in the garage, except for the Phillips head screwdriver. We're keeping that in the junk drawer in the kitchen because we've got a story that says, I don't want to go all the way out to that garage to get this screwdriver. I need it in the kitchen more often than I need it anywhere else. This
Yeah.
is good time management. I'm just going to throw it in the junk drawer and then it's right at my fingertips. Except you don't remember that after you've made the decision. You don't remember it. You go to the garage looking for the screwdriver. You don't find it. Maybe you go buy another screwdriver, and then 3 weeks later, you're digging around in that drawer. You find it, and you're like, oh, who's the idiot who left it here? Why isn't it in its home? And then your second thought is one of your 200 lies. Now that I remember that this was my brilliant time management hack, I'll never forget it again. You'll forget it in 30 seconds. So the simplest way to get organized is give everything a home and put all like objects together in that home. Then staying organized becomes when something new comes in, something old goes out. If you have more than you need and you are decluttering and removing excess, why would you spend any time shopping or consuming things that you don't need when you already have more than you need? Right? It's again, you can tell yourself, well, I've got 10 minutes. There's nothing I can really do with these 10 minutes. I might as well kill some time shopping, or, I'll look at Zappos, or I'll look at Amazon, or I'll walk through the mall. I'll pretend that I'm getting exercise and I'll do some window shopping. But the reality is those 10 minutes, time is a non-renewable resource. Which doesn't, again, mean that you have to be some sort of robot maximizing every moment of your day if you don't choose to. If you want to lay in a hammock and read a book, just be all in, laying in the hammock, reading in the book. Don't be partly reading the book, but also thinking about, oh, this is stolen time. As soon as I get out of this hammock, I have to go and do these 7 things. And so you're not even reading the book in the hammock. You're just in your head tormenting yourself about all the things that are waiting for you once you get out of the hammock.
Okay. Entrepreneur. How could use this organizational triangle to like something very practical in their day to day?
Think about if you think about your machines, right? Your server, one home for everything, and like with like. So all of a particular kind of document or file or digital asset lives in the same folder. So that if you're looking for a graphic, you only have to go to one place. Like where are your digital assets? There's a folder called digital assets. Inside that, there's, project A, digital assets, project B, digital assets, project C, digital assets. They're all right there. You only have to go one place to look for them, and they're all together. It's the same thing with your office supplies. Office supplies live in one place, right? You don't keep an extra couple of pads of Post-its in your desk drawer because you're always running out of Post-its, and you don't trust the office manager to buy. If you're the office manager or you've got an office manager, you don't trust them to buy them, so you've squirreled some away. Then they don't know how to properly order. How quickly do we go through Post-its? Because you've got your own little secret stash of them.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like you're protecting yourself or you're doing something proactive, but you're actually undermining the system. Often the simplest system is the best system. And we create these workarounds that we think are making things more efficient, but they're actually creating obstacles or bottlenecks or roadblocks to success. So applying one home for everything and like with like in your digital world, in your physical world, is going to make things much more efficient.
One home for everything, like with like something in, something out.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and if you think about the something in, something out, I'm an author. I've written multiple books. I don't keep once I've written a book and it's published, I don't keep all the drafts of the book. I keep the final manuscript because that is the published book. If there were gems that I wrote that ended up on the cutting room floor, I would harvest those out and park them someplace. Like if there was a great turn of phrase that didn't make it into the book, my job as the author is to harvest those and park them someplace that I could maybe repurpose them. But telling myself that in a 400-page manuscript, I'm going to go back and read it to try to find the gem. What a colossal waste of time. If all I remember is I said something really clever, but I don't remember in which chapter on what page it was, that is a crazy scavenger hunt. I have to believe that I'm talented enough that I'll come up with something equally as good when I need to, rather than going backwards, trying to trying to find something after the fact. So all of those things end up in the recycle bin, and what I hold on to is the final manuscript.
That's interesting. It reminds me of this years ago. The rapper Eminem. He was in an interview on television when television was still a big thing, and the interviewer was asking him like, "What's your creative process? How do you think of all these rap lyrics?" And he actually had a little box, and he had sheets of paper. He goes, basically, what he finds significant, he'll put it into that box. And he was going through it, and he was saying, "Oh, here's a lyric here. Oh, wait, hold on, that's really good. I might use this on my next song." And that's where he kept his little gems, right? Scrap pieces of paper in a little box, right? And
One
so
home for
that's
everything, like
one
with
home
like.
for everything, like with like, and it didn't look like he wanted to throw anything out, but the guy's successful for a reason.
Yeah, well, he
Um,
probably didn't have
yeah,
his repair receipt for his car in there. He only had lyrics and ideas for songs and concepts in there.
yeah, I'm guessing. So your most recent book in 2023 was Calling BS on Busy. I guess what myths are you trying to bust in there? Like, what is the BS you're calling on Busy?
Well, I mean, I think we, as a culture, certainly in the developed world, there's a certain amount of like self-deprecating pride in, oh, I'm so busy. There's so many demands on my time, as if that's a badge of honor that you get to wear because you're so in demand.
Mm-hmm.
I return to, what Warren Buffett said. I don't know when he said it, but he said the difference between successful and very, very successful people is the ability to say no. I don't know what his personal life looks like, but certainly his visible life, he looks pretty successful to me. I'm guessing that Warren gets to spend his days the way he wants to spend his days. And so I think that that's useful to channel in our own lives, right? The ability to say no appropriately. You don't need to be a dick about it, but you can certainly tell people, you can have good boundaries and say, no, it's not a good fit for me. It doesn't align with my values. I don't have the time for it now. It's not a priority for me. However it's appropriate for you to say no, it's helpful to recognize that no is a complete sentence. You could just say no without an explanation. And if you choose to give one, you could give one. It's just also helpful to recognize when the words but or because enter into the sentence, you're now trying to justify something that you say you believe in or is important to you. And if that is the case, then you have to look at what's going on around people pleasing that you feel compelled to explain your position.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think once you start doing that, it eats away at your authority to make your own choices.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for somebody to buy in and agree with you that what you're prioritizing is truly important and that everybody agrees, so that you get a pass when you get to, say no or do what you want to do. And that's tied into a certain amount of self-esteem. So I realize I'm going not exactly down a rabbit hole, but I'm talking about a particular thing here. The 8 deadly time thieves that I talk about in Calling BS on Busy are overcommitting, interruptions, poor planning, meetings, email, social media, multitasking, and procrastination. So we look at all of those and the stories that we have around those. Like, some people think that multitasking is their superpower. The brain science tells us as soon as you start to multitask, you are decreasing your IQ by 10 points or more, and you are less able to function when you are multitasking than somebody who's under the influence of marijuana or somebody who hasn't slept in 24 hours. So you've got a story that says, I'm firing on all 12 cylinders. Your brain is saying, you have just compromised me more than somebody who's high or somebody who
Mm-hmm.
hasn't slept all night.
Wow. So, what advice would you give to anyone listening out there right now who's drowning in their to-dos or digital clutter? What's the first thing you would have them do?
So there's always 2 ways to approach time and stuff. You can go fast, you can go big. So depending on your emotional bandwidth in the moment, right? Like how much energy and how much focus you have. If you need some quick wins, go for the low hanging fruit. It could be throwing stuff in the recycle bin. It could be clearing off a countertop. It could be cleaning out one closet or one drawer. When we think about the clean out one folder, clean out your downloads folder on your computer, clearing off your computer desktop, right? Like organize your apps on your mobile phone. You could go for low hanging fruit and just do something that's simple that doesn't require a lot of time or a lot of mental, emotional bandwidth. If you're feeling particularly strong and focused and fierce, go to the place that is where you are most, where time is most compacted. That could be a perceived big project that you've been procrastinating on starting. Just start. Set the timer for 15 minutes and start. Or if we think about it in the physical clutter kind of space, go to the sad, scary corner where you just drop stuff in the basement, and you just keep deferring the decisions. Go to the garage, go to the attic, go to the offsite storage space. Go someplace where you're going to feel the biggest impact on that work. But again, only if you're feeling strong and focused. If you're at all tentative or feeling a little puny, a little tired, a little beat up, go for some quick wins. It's easy to build momentum. Ultimately, you're going to get to the same place. You're going to touch everything. You're going to make all the decisions that you had deferred over time anyway. Build momentum in the way that you are wired to in this moment that you're beginning. And the biggest thing is really to begin. Set a timer, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If you need to leverage external accountability, it triples your success rate when you use external accountability. So if you just need to text a friend or a colleague and say, I'm setting my timer for 15 minutes. I'm going to do this thing that I've been putting off. I will ping you when I'm finished. That alone, just you declaring out loud, instead of just in having a conversation in your own head, you declaring it out loud and making a commitment to, I will do X in X amount of time, triples the likelihood, A, that you'll do it, and B, that you'll succeed.
Thank you for those tips and tricks there, Andrew. I have one last question for you before we close out. I ask every single guest this question. What's one question I should have asked you, but I haven't asked you yet?
Interesting. I feel like we've covered what we've covered. We've had an organic conversation and we've touched on some points that I hope are useful for the listener. I mean, I suppose what you didn't ask me is how people can find me if they want to learn more about me. So we can throw that in
Okay.
the middle of the room, right? I mean,
Okay. Let's throw it out there then.
yeah. So Andrew Mellen, Mellen, not Onen. And you can find me at andrewmellen.com. I'm guessing in the show notes there'll be a link where people can follow up if they have any questions. My books are available everywhere books are sold. Yeah, I mean, I'm almost always, because I try to avoid speaking in absolutes, right? I'm almost always available and interested in helping folks move the needle forward for themselves when it comes to both time management, productivity, and organizing and decluttering. We all have agency in our lives. Fortunately, I mean, we're very lucky that we live at a time in the world, regardless of what's going on in the world at any given moment. Many of us have the agency and the ability to create our own lives in alignment with our values, which is a tremendous privilege that we don't need to necessarily feel guilty or ashamed or embarrassed about, and an appropriate amount of gratitude and acknowledgement of that privilege, I think, is a beautiful foundation for making the kinds of choices that keep us aligned with our values and living our best life, whatever that means to each of us, so that we have fewer regrets and a greater sense of happiness and satisfaction and participation in the world. So anything that I can do to support folks in moving that forward for them is I'm game for.
Well, Andrew, thank you very much. You're doing a great service for folks, and really when to have that focus on knowing what's important, what you value, is aligned to your values. Very often, when there is some sort of declutter, whether it's in the mind or physically, it helps bring that focus to mind and bring clarity to what's important for you as well. And so, I really feel what you're doing is very valuable for for everyone listening out there, especially
Thank
the
you.
leaders who listen to this podcast. Well, Andrew, Thank you very much. 32 minutes together. And yeah, there you go. Bell ring. Jeez. I got to up my game there. I got to have a gong here for my next guest. All right. Well, Andrew, I would love to have you on again in the near future and see what you're up to.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. I'm David Fung, and my mission is to help leaders grow, lead with impact, and build thriving teams. If you found this valuable, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow leader. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.